I was recently asked by a student in the class how they could go about using the Javadocs program to generate documentation for the project. So let me go through and show you how you might go about generating the documentation for this first project, the Tortoise and Hare project. So let's assume that you can open up a command line window or a shell window. For Windows, that would be just the command shell, or PowerShell. For Linux systems, it's the Born Again shell or the Bash shell. Mac has a similar set of terminal windows that you can open. And navigate out to the directory where your source code is located. So that just involves using the change directory command on both Windows and on Linux and Mac systems. And you type in that full path, or you copy and paste, however you want to get to it. And when you get there, go through and do a listing or a directory depending on the type of shell that you're doing. Make sure you have the files that you want. Then what I would recommend doing is create a directory called docs or documentation or something along those lines. Notice that I created the docs directory by doing the make directory mkdir command. And then what I can do is I can type in the javadoc command. I can press in the -d to direct where to place those document files, which will be basically web pages or HTML files. Give it the docs directory that I just created. And I can specify a bunch of different options. And one of those might be the scope of variables to create. By default, it's going to work with everything that has public scoping to it. If I wanted to do everything that has private scoping to it or protected scoping, which is in between those two, then I would specify the -private attribute. And then I have to specify which files that I want it to work on. In this case, it would be the .java files. Now, Javadocs is a really complex program. It has a lot of options to it, a lot of things that you can include, a lot of things you can exclude. And I will let you guys explore all those options on your own. But if you do this Javadoc space tac or -d, and then destination directory for your documents, space dash or tac private, and then put a space and then which source code files, typically your Java files. Then it's going to put all those HTML or those web pages into that directory, and you can easily view them. I think that's probably the most straightforward approach to use. Now, in your source code, it helps if you use the @param, the symbol PARAM, and the @return RETURN in each of your method headers so that it can better document some of these items. And Javadocs supports a bunch of these different annotations within your header documentation. Remember, the header documentation is the documentation that has the /**, and then you hit enter, and then at least in NetBeans it'll complete the rest of it, ending with a */ or an asterisk //. So you do all that, give it a few minutes. You might get some errors or something about some things that, like I didn't specify a param in some of my header documentation at certain points in my code, and shame on me for that. But generally it'll go through, it'll tell you how many errors it found and how many warnings there were, but it will generally generate the documentation. As you can see, generating docs/index, docs/, actually these are backward slashes, I apologize, help doc, so on and so forth. So once you do that, you can change the directory into the documents directory, do a listing of that directory, and then you can say, at least in PowerShell, start process, and then say Chrome, and then just say index.html, since that's where it all exists. Let it open up. At that point, the web page where all your documentation for the project starts. And then I can look at my Tortoise class, and I can see I have a draw and I have a move method. I can see the methods that got inherited from Racer. I can see the methods that got inherited from Object. And I can see some details, some of my parameters for different methods, my constructor here, because I'm specifying, and I'm specifying private scoping for these. So some things like Tortoise move % that normally wouldn't be shown if you had used just a default public scoping, it actually shows up here. So that's all well and good, and that should give you most of the way. Now, if it turns out you cannot type Javadoc and have it do anything, first of all, make sure you actually have the Java development kit installed, not the Java runtime, but the Java development kit. You also need that to be able to compile Java code. And then, at least in Windows 10, if I say just type in path from the settings menu, I get some things here like edit the system environment variables. Click on that. You'll be brought up to a screen. And then what you can do is look at the environment variables button down here. Click on that. And then, depending on whether you want to set your path, they include the Java programs for the user or for everyone on the program, the whole system, determines where we're going to go next. Generally, I like to do it for the whole system just in case, but you don't have to. All right, and if you click on the edit button for the system variables, you'll notice that in my case, the Javadocs program was found because I have this part of my path in here, the C program files java/jdk 180.191/bin. All right, so on Windows systems, you'll see something very similar to this. If you're going to be able to see be able to have the Javadocs program pop up when you type it at a command line prompt because it's part of the path. If not, you'll have to add this. Your installation of Java may be in a slightly different location. It may have a slightly different version number attached to it. So you might have to just hunt and peck around for that. In any case, I want to cancel out of this since it's already set appropriately for me. But if yours isn't, that's one of the things that you can go ahead and check. So I think that'll do it for this video.